When I wake up that Saturday morning, Hieronymous isn't in bed. I roll over at the clock and see that it's 10:37 a.m. At first, I'm concerned, but I quickly realize that it's Saturday and he probably went off to do stuff in the mailroom. Last summer, I had helped out. Was I supposed to this year? Especially since I wasn't living in the dorms any longer? I didn't know the answer and make a mental note to ask him when he got back. I sit up and stretch. It's the first time I've had really any alone time to myself the whole week. Not that I'm really complaining after being away from him for so long, but I feel sore everywhere. And if my young, limber body feels sore, then his must be even more so. I could picture him right now reading in a corner of the library or some other dark and dusty portion of the school where no one else was around. After living by himself for 12 years, it must be strange for him to suddenly share his room with someone else, even if that someone is his wife. I decided it's best to give each other some space this weekend and get dressed so I can go off to see Ellen. We're still on a break from classes, and so I can wear whatever I want. I throw on a t-shirt and jeans with my sneakers, deciding to leave my hoodie back here. As I head outside, I realize that was probably a smart idea. It's a lot warmer than it usually is for May, and the sun shining through the trees only makes it seem hotter. I decide to avoid the trails and follow the regular pathways over to the dorm. Not that I'm as afraid of the trails in broad daylight, but the campus is less busy than it would otherwise be, and I don't want to take any chances. I walk into Horse Hall, go over to our old door, and knock. It feels strange knocking on a door to a room I used to call mine, but it isn't mine anymore. I lived with Hieronymous now, and I had absolutely no complaints about that. Virginia? I ask in surprise as she opens the door. Who else were you expecting? Virginia asks playfully as she sees me. Come on in. It looks like she's just woken up as she's still in her pajamas and her hair is a mess. Ellen is sitting on her bed, half dressed, reading a book. Hey there, I say to her as she looks up. Hey Tori, she replies. What are you doing back here? Things okay? Yeah, I shrug. I just wanted to see if you guys want to hang out. Hang out? Virginia asks, sitting back down on her bed. I realize there's nowhere else to sit, and so I make my way over to the edge of my old bed. It feels weird, and I am very not comfortable, but I try not to let it show. We figured you and Grabby would be having your own personal honeymoon until class started up again. I let my voice drop off as my cheeks flush. I mean, honeymoons pretty much imply going away somewhere, right? We just kind of wanted to be alone. With each other. Ellen sets down her book as they both stare at me. You didn't, Virginia says. I open my mouth, then shut it again, not really looking at her. Really? Ellen asks. Like, you both really? Mayday magic, I say lightly, and they both collapse into a fit of giggles. I laugh too, burying my face in my hands. It's not a big deal. It's totally a big deal, Virginia says. You really did it. With a teacher. With Grabby. Was he nice, at least? Ellen asks. I hesitate. I don't know how much to share with them, but all last year I kept keeping secrets from them. I didn't want to do that this year. And besides, I had literally no one else to talk to about it. They could keep this a secret. It was his first time, too. I say quietly. Well, that's not a surprise, Virginia says dismissively. But was it good? Yeah, I say quietly. He was very gentle with me. They wait for me to continue. At least the first time. Tori, Virginia laughs. Ellen's face turned a bright shade of red. Any other details you want to share with us? No. I shake my head quickly. Ellen silently looks grateful. No, he would probably kill me if I said any more. But just, it was good, and he's nice to me, and so that's all that's important, right? Absolutely, Virginia agrees, because if he isn't, he knows that we'll give him hell. Right, Ellen? Of course, Ellen says. I smile at both of them. Okay, enough about me and Grabby, I say. What are you still doing here, Virginia? I thought you'd be back at home by now. Staying another week, Virginia shrugs. A lot of people are still hanging out yet. Only the wild seeds really go home right after May Day. The rest of us just kind of stick around and party it up for a while. Party it up? I ask. There's going to be a bonfire tonight, she says. You should totally come. That sounds like fun, I say. I mean, Grabby probably won't want to go, but we could use a break from each other, if you know what I mean. They laugh again, and my face just goes red. So not what I meant. I huff. I just mean that we have spent every minute of every day together for an entire week. It gets to be a little much, especially since he's not used to being around anyone for that long. Even me. Sure, whatever you say, Virginia says as she winks at me. We hang out for a while, just talking about different things, and I follow them to the cafeteria for a yummy taco lunch. Afterwards, I split with them to head back towards Hieronymus's room, hoping that he may be back so I can tell him about the bonfire tonight. But as I open the door, I can see that nothing's changed. Nothing's moved. He still hasn't been back yet. I let out a little grunt as I close the door behind me and jump onto the bed, rolling over. Nothing to do, nothing to do, nothing to do. The truth was that I could read or write in my diary, but I was too distracted right now. Where was Hieronymus? Hosting detention? Who would even have detention between classes? I wish he left me some sort of a note or something to tell me where he was going. For a moment I realized that I am getting concerned about him and quickly push it away. This was Hieronymus. There was nothing to be concerned about. He probably just shut himself in his office or somewhere and was appreciating all the quiet time he had to himself. I take advantage of all the free time I suddenly have in order to write in my diary. After all, I hadn't updated it since before the May Day ball, and there was so much to update. The worst part was, though, that I didn't know how to describe any of it. Considering how Professor Potsdam had read my last diary, I didn't want to write anything too graphic or detailed, but at the same time, what if I lost my memories again, and this was the only way to remember? I try to think of a list of euphemisms to perplex any casual reader that might come across it, but all of them sound too childish and obvious. Hieronymus showed me his wand? Yeah, no. In the end, I decide to just write whatever comes to mind and not worry about what Hieronymus or Professor Potsdam would think if they ever read it. Hieronymus, especially, knew better than to invade my privacy after last time, but it didn't seem like Professor Potsdam suffered any sort of moral quandary stealing it from my room and leafing through it. At least the last one read more along the lines of the ramblings of a silly schoolgirl. This one was a bit darker, a bit more mature, with more adult themes. By the time I roll over to check the clock, I realize that it's already 7:30 p.m. He's still not back yet? He better be actually really busy. Maybe preparing for summer classes? I huff as I throw on my hoodie and make my way down to the bonfire. It's just getting dark and people are setting up with marshmallows and s'mores. I walk around the outskirts of the bonfire until I see Donald and quickly make my way over to him. Heya, I say quickly. Oh hey, he says. Haven't seen you around all week. What have you been doing? Oh, just stuff, I say casually. It's one thing to talk to Virginia and Ellen about things with Grabby, but Donald is another entity entirely. So, how did you get detention today? Detention? Donald looks surprised. I didn't get detention today, and I don't think anyone else did either. We're on a break. No one really cares enough to give us detention or anything. Oh, I look away. If he wasn't hosting detention, then what had he been doing all day? Just reading? I mean, it was like him, but... Trouble in paradise? Donald asks. No, I say quickly. No, he was just gone from the time I woke up this morning, so I figured he was just hosting detention, that's all. Shh, take this. Virginia sneaks up behind me and discreetly gives me 2 bags of marshmallows. Stuff these in your hoodie. The graduating seniors are taking most of them. If you want s'mores, it's every man for himself. I giggle as I watch her run around to try to grab some chocolate and see Ellen and Donald casually clasp hands out of the corner of my eye. Interesting. I mean, I knew they were still dating, but it was one of those things I still couldn't quite wrap my head around. Maybe it was because their love affair was something simple and uncomplicated. Mine was passionate, but dramatic and stressful were definitely 2 adjectives that I would put high on the list. Virginia is able to steal a few crackers and a few bars of chocolate, and we sit around for the fire for a while, eating, laughing, roasting marshmallows, swapping stories, and watching the seniors dance and spin fire like they had the night of the Thunder Dance. It's pretty to watch, and I let the time slip away from me. My watch says it's about 11:15 p.m. when I decide to make my exit. My stomach is full of marshmallows anyway, and I don't want Hieronymous to worry about me if he gets back and I'm not there. But when I get back to the room, he's still not back yet either. Hieronymous, I whisper. I pull off my hoodie, and, like usual, my stone pendant comes up and almost hits me in the face. The stone! He had given me that pendant to link our heartbeats. He carried a stone that let me feel his heartbeat, and I carried an identical dark blue stone that let me feel his. I cup it in both hands, but feel nothing. No, of course I felt nothing. He said you had to think pleasant thoughts for it to work. Pleasant. I curl up at the edge of the bed, struggling out of my sneakers with the balls of my feet. How was I able to think pleasant thoughts right now? Hieronymous? I reach out into the void and wait. My hand is clenched around the stone so tightly I can feel my knuckles shaking. Hieronymous, are you there? You're starting to freak me out. I know you're probably busy reading, but it's late. Can you please come home, please? He's probably laughing at me right now, I think. We spent an entire week together, and now he thinks I can't go one day without him. I take a few deep breaths, but I still can't feel his heartbeat. What if something happened? Something happened to me, and that was on school grounds, although, granted, that was at night in the middle of summer. He hadn't been back all day, and there were still plenty of people who haven't left yet. Hieronymous! I continue calling out into the void, listening and waiting, but no answers come, and sleep eventually drags me down into an uneasy rest.